Hey everybody, welcome to the special edition live show. We're just gonna call it coffee hour. I got coffee because it's early for me, but we've got some great people here on the show. We're just gonna talk about podcast and streaming setups because we're gearheads, right? How about you guys introduce yourselves? First, let's check to make sure everybody could hear us. Francois. Oh, you know what? Talk again, Francois.
Test. Can you hear me?
All right. Can you guys hear Francois now?
All right.
Alan said, he called you Franny.
Franny. Thank you, Alan.
I think that was an audio issue on my end. Hold on. Let me make sure. See, this is why I got to bring up the... All right. I know they can hear me because I heard myself talking on the video.
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you as well.
How about us? Can you hear us when we talk?
All right. I think they can hear us now.
Okay.
Yes. All right. German says yes. All right. I think we're good there.
Awesome.
Mistake on my end.
It's all good.
Yeah. By the time we get to the Wi-Fi ninjas, it's perfect.
Exactly.
All right, so I'm Roel, trying to run the operations here as we get like 4 people on this thing, which is I don't think I've done yet.
And every time we do a live, that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you do live like this on YouTube, and then you have Skype, and you have to record the audio and everything. It's a lot of moving pieces. But I forgot what I said, but it probably wasn't very important.
but you are Francois.
I am Francois.
Mac.
All right.
Yo. Okay. Hi, I'm Mac, Wi-Fi Ninja, one of 2, together with Matt. And it's not like I was the only one doing the audio video setup here. We were doing it all together. So we have pretty much similar setup with Matt. Well, I have a little bit more toys. I like to tinker with stuff. Matt likes it easy. And also we are not like 100% set yet. I think we will be updating our video on Matt's side, and I'm also waiting for some more equipment too. But we are almost there, and this is what we are going to talk about today, how we do it behind the scenes. How is it going, Matt?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, you pretty much introduced me in what we're talking about today anyway, so the second part of the Wi-Fi Ninja, the better looking part.
That's smart, right?
Let's do another quiz and see.
Is that part of your guys' survey on the show? Which one's the better looking guy?
Well, I probably wouldn't like the results of the survey, so let's not do it.
And Alan says, why do you look like you're about to break out into a rap, Mac?
Well, is he asking about my arm? I might let.
No, it's because you got your hat on, so it looks like you're a rapper for one.
Oh yeah, yo, man, of course.
And how's your arm, by the
some
way?
bars, Matt.
Yeah, my arm has never been better. Thank you very much for asking. It's amazing. Not too mobile right now, but it's right.
Must have been one heck of a time you were doing there. You're on a boat, right?
Well, I was getting onto my boat where my shoulder snapped, not snapped, like dislocated itself so massively that, I had to go to the hospital with an ambulance. But it was a good journey. I had morphine, I had gas and air, so I know why ladies are so crazy about it. It really gives you a very good kick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I might consider having some, for home use, like after recording.
We was hoping you'd still be high from when you had it the other day, so make this coffee hour even more entertaining.
Yeah, we were gonna have this yesterday until we found out you cut your arm off. So he said, we'll go tomorrow. We'll give him a day.
Yeah, day is more than enough to recover from today's at the hospital. Thank you very much, guys, for being so kind to me.
Well, we want to welcome everybody who is live with us. We've got Alan, Chris Reed, Nigel Germans. Who else is on there? Let us know in the chat that you're here, where you're coming from, and what you guys want to know about how we do our setups. It's not perfect, but it does. We get to a spot where we feel good about our setups, and each of us has it done differently. And we'll each talk about what is involved with setting up and how much of a hole we dug into our wallets, and now living borderline on the streets because of our podcast setups.
Well, it's technically it's all your fault, Roel and Francois.
What?
After we recorded that message for UC, we compared what our setup was like. Oh man, maybe it's time for us to upgrade, and then God knows how many thousands of pounds later, here we are.
Yeah,
well, I'm sure.
So I know exactly.
I'm sure, like the shelter in place really triggered a lot of people to change their setup, and it's one of those things where you start doing more from your desk, and then you start getting more involved with audio, and then having to do video, and then you start thinking about the different components that you go, that could be a little bit better. What can I change it to? And then I know, Mac, you went down like this review where you're just like reviewing all sorts of equipment, and so we had this chat between the four of us on Twitter, and I would, since Mac is like 9 hours ahead of me, I would wake up and see all these messages about you testing out a microphone. You want to talk about that experience? Maybe Matt or Mac, you can start first about your audio equipment, and then like we have more people raising their hands here. You got John Foster who's here. Chris wants to know USB versus XLR for multi-purpose microphone, and we got Neil McDonald from Scotland. So we're pretty much international right here.
Yeah. So we have the nicest people in the industry watching us right now. Thank you very much, guys, for joining. And let's crack on with the audio equipment. So 2 months ago, I had a Yeti microphone, which is a condenser microphone, USB microphone that doesn't require anything else. And it was amazing. It was easy to use, plug and play, exactly that. It was just white. But Francois is showing us the Yeti microphone. It's like around £120 in the UK, sometimes less, sometimes more. And it's well worth it. It's an amazing microphone. It has 3 capsules inside, so we can change the direction that it grabs the audio from. You can make it like, so it grabs the audio only from the front of the microphone. You can make it omnidirectional. You can make it like bi-directional for interviews on 2 sides of the table. So it's amazing. What I didn't like about it is that you can probably hear the noise of Matt's fan. Okay, so in the background, it gets a lot of background noise.
I'm on mute, so you can't hear it now.
Wait, you just spoke. How are you on mute?
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's the Yeti is a great microphone, and I use that a lot for meetings if I just want something simple versus showing everyone I have this setup. And then I gave it to my son when we were sheltering in place, so I gave him my Yeti, and he uses that to do his Zoom classes, and he obviously has the best audio out of all of his classmates, and he's got this big microphone in front of him. So like that's when I guess when you pick that type of microphone versus the ones you see here on our screens, there's a huge cost savings there. I mean, it's not an inexpensive microphone, but it definitely ups the quality of your audio if you are using a Yeti. But it is kind of like an upgrade from using just like your headset microphone. If you're using like AirPods or something, it is a step up from that kind of microphone.
But still, what do you feel, guys? Like when you eat up Yeti, when you're getting really close to the capsule, don't you feel like you have this beautiful proximity effect from the Yeti as well? You cannot change how it sounds because it's just like pre-configured to sound as it sounds. So it's probably, not perfect for everyone. It's good for most. But I find Yeti quite rich, quite nice. But as we've discussed for a while, it was quite heavily processed on the Yeti side. Yeah. So it does give you this broadcasting voice quality, but it's good enough for most people. So I would say like Yeti voice quality for me, it was 8 out of 10, strong one.
So
And
which
I
microphone are
I
you?
still use it.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
it's a great microphone.
yeah.
It's not one I would just toss. I definitely use it every once in a while. But what about the microphone that you're using now compared to the Yeti?
Yeah. Okay. So now a few months later, now currently I'm on a Rode Broadcaster microphone. This is still a condenser microphone, but it has a different pattern to Yeti. So it doesn't pick up as much noise from the background. It's actually closer to dynamic microphones in this regard. So I was testing how much it picks up of the background sound while typing on a keyboard, while clicking on a mouse, while having my son screaming on the other side of the door outside of my office. And I tested it with Yeti. I tested it with my second mic of choice, which was the Rode Pod Mic. It was cheaper, dynamic XLR microphone. And now I've tested the Broadcaster, and Broadcaster stayed because I felt like it's nice and warm. I'm not sure if you guys like it or not, but if you eat it up, you can have like a real Broadcaster quality, like from
Yeah,
a
it
studio.
sounds great. It sounds very good. I like the quality that I hear, and I'm listening to your voice out of my speakers versus your headphones, and it sounds like way better than a Yeti. It addresses the deeper tones of your voice, so it sounds good. It doesn't sound like overly deep like how some of the cheaper microphones do it, but it sounds great. And I know when you're using it, you're using it on like this as a side, from the side of the microphone. And this is a question from Chris Reed. How do you see a huge benefit when you're talking to the microphone when it's on the side versus like how I'm doing it at the end of the microphone?
So let's test it. So guys, this is I'm like 5 inches away. This is how Rowell has it in his setup now. So it gives me free movement, so I don't have to eat it up all the time. But then when you're getting closer, it should be sounding better and better to the point where you're eating up the mic for something called the proximity effect. And that should give you more depth, more color to the voice, hopefully. Well, I don't know if you can hear it, but that's what it should do. So I tend not to eat it up too much, but be 2-3 inches away from it. So it still gives me some wiggle, wiggle, how do you call it?
Yeah, you got wiggle. You got room to move a little bit, whereas I have to be about this close. I speak at the end. If I speak to the side, you can see the difference of my voice if I'm on the side of the microphone versus at the end of the microphone. I don't know if you guys heard that difference, but if I snap, there's less sound that comes from the side. And
so it probably when you type, it's not too bad because you have a keyboard pretty much behind the microphone, so we can't hear when you type. It's like a very faint noise of typing. And with the microphone choice, why I've also decided to stay with the Broadcaster, I'm not sure if you can see that there is a little thing here, like a black thing on the microphone, and there is a physical hardware high pass filter built into the microphone, so it should filter out most of the background noise, like your feet on the floor, like the fan on the background, like some constant white noise sounds, and it works. So I was testing it. It's really, really good. Of course, you can hear a car that's passing, just next to my window, but a little annoying constant sounds, they are filtered out, which is
fan, like a fan coming from your laptop.
Yeah, not mine.
Yeah, so maybe we should go to Matt, who is using the Yeti. Matt, what do you think about that microphone?
I'm just using my AirPods. So I did try the Rodecaster. I had the Rodecaster Pod Mic, the same one that you had before, going into the Rode little mixer, but it just wasn't powerful enough to when we were trying to use it. And we changed the mixer from the Rode to a what was it called? M-Audio.
Second one.
Yeah, and then I had that turned up on the max, and it was okay, but then it just still wasn't great. So I got so frustrated at this point that I just sent it all back and just brought the latest version Yeti, which is the Yeti X, which is what I'm on now. And it does pick up background noise, so I'm sure people that have got their headphones in, they can probably hear my MacBook Pro fans that have decided to kick in now that we're doing our live stream. It's been nice and quiet all day until now, but I think that's just I think that's an issue with like latest Macs. I think the fans just seem to come on like crazy sometimes. So my options is to potentially move my Mac, but I like typing on my keyboard and using my trackpad, so I'd have to put my Mac somewhere else. Which yeah, no, I'm still undecided about, still thinking about, contemplating. And I use my AirPods for audio when we're doing podcasts or live videos, just because I don't like the feeling of the overheads on my ears, because it makes me feel hot and it presses on my glasses, which annoy my face.
Headphones or without, you are still very hot, man.
I get even hotter, so
It'll ruin that beautiful hairstyle of yours there, and I know you just got that cut.
Yeah. So this is about a week old now, actually. Week and a bit old.
I can't have that, man. Like, you have to see your barber like every week, otherwise it's no good.
And then we have a different spectrum of microphones where Francois is using a microphone I like a lot, and I have one as well. So Francois, why don't you talk about your comparison between, because you have a Yeti, you have a different, I don't know, I think you have 3 microphones, right, Francois?
Yeah, I have 3 microphones that I like to use for different occasions. I like the Yeti, and it screws on the mount I have. I have the same mount as Mac has. It's actually one from Yeti. It's pretty nice looking. That's why I got it. Actually, it looks better than like a Rode or a typical mount. But yeah, so I use the Yeti if I do like conference calls and I don't want to be like really close to the mic, right? So for most of the things I would do, conference calls I would do with my customers, I would use the Yeti most of the time. And then I just mute myself when I'm not talking, so they don't hear, what's happening in my house, right?
You don't use the button on the Yeti, the physical one, to mute yourself, do you?
No, because everyone can hear that, right?
You can hear that click, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a clicky button. People can hear that. I use a shortcut.
Are you hearing me when I'm clicking it then? Because that's what I've been doing for the last few minutes.
You have a different.
No, I think on the new one, I don't think we can hear it as much as on the old one. Like if I click, you guys can hear that, right?
Let's try now. I'm gonna mute.
Yeah, I could totally hear that.
I heard that.
Okay, so maybe it is still happening then, and you just didn't notice it.
Yeah. And, so that's the one I use for general use. I also like to use a Lav Mic. So this is the one I got from Amazon. It's from Rode as well, and it just connects, to your laptop, to the headphone jack of your laptop. And I use this when I teach online, because I can move around a little bit more, or if I record, videos like YouTube videos and so on, I'll just use this one. It does pick up everything, just like the Yeti mic, so I have to be careful. But if I'm talking, it will just pick up my voice and cancel everything else out. So when you're teaching, you're talking all the time, so it's not a big deal. And then when I record,
Go ahead, Francois. When you record.
Yeah, and then when I record podcasts, I use this one, which is one you recommended to me at the very early stages when we started to record podcasts, and I really like this one. It's very inexpensive compared to what you guys have. I think it's $100, something like that. It's called the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. And what I really like about this one here is that it's a cardioid dynamic microphone, so it's only supposed to pick up my voice when I'm talking to it. If I talk on the side, hopefully you guys hear less of my voice. And also what I really like about this one is you have the options to connect it via USB or XLR, right? So if you have a mixer, you can connect it via XLR and get the XLR audio. And then if you have if you want to connect it directly to your laptop, you can use USB, and it's going to work as well. And this was a really good option for me, especially when I was on the go. I could just bring the mic with me, a USB cable, and I could record the show on the road, connecting it directly to my laptop, and that would work really well. Or what I would do is I would use something like this, like it's a recorder. and then I could connect the mic directly into the recorder via XLR cable, and I could record directly on that mic when I'm on the go. So I really like that option. It's very small, so I could put it in my suitcase, and I think it doesn't sound as good as yours, but it sounds good enough. So
It sounds great.
Yeah, so I've kept this mic because it's good enough, I guess, for what I do.
Yeah, that's the one I carry with me just in case we both need to record for Clear to Send, because Francois is about 3 hours ahead of me. So a lot of times I'll either be at work and I'll just sit in my car for about an hour during a lunch break or something to record an episode. So we do have some episodes where I'm recording from my car, and the audio is great because you can't really hear anything, and I just record directly to my laptop. And that's a great starter microphone for anyone who just wants to get started but still have good audio quality. That Audio-Technica ATR 2100 is perfect because it does use USB. It's got a headphone jack, so you can attach your headphones to it if you want to hear the audio directly to make sure it sounds good. The one thing I would caution though with that microphone is if you're hand holding it, it will pick up the sound on the microphone as you're recording, and so you have to stay really still. Like when I was recording in the car, I wouldn't move at all, just for about an hour.
Especially if you have a ring or something like that, that will just bump against the outside of the microphone, and you could totally hear that. But you know what? It comes with a tiny tripod. It's not the best tripod ever, but I would take it with me when I would be on the road, and it would be good enough. Or if you can actually unscrew the tripod, and then it fits on my on the mount I have. So I can what I do if I want to switch between the ATR and the Yeti mic, I just unscrew the Yeti and then I screw the ATR, and that's
Good question as well about your mic. What are you on now? Are you on USB or on the XLR through the interface?
So can you guess?
I guess that you are on USB because you're lazy.
Yeah, I'm on USB right now. So it's actually directly connected to my laptop, and then I'm
connected to XLR. Would it be any different?
I'm not audiophile enough to hear the difference.
I think it would only be different if you had a mixer. I mean, you do get cleaner audio through XLR. Because through USB, if you connect it to your laptop, you could still pick up some noise from the components that connect to the laptop. But XLR, you'll have more fine-grained control. Although it's a lot different nowadays if you use something like, the applications for audio. Like if you use that directly as your mixer, you could get more fine-grained control over that. But I'm more of the XLR type of guy because back in high school I did take audio class, so I would go around with different groups that needed audio, and I would set up all their microphones, use the mixers, and so I'm more of the equipment snob, I guess.
I actually used to have a mixer, and then I renovated my office over the Christmas holidays, and I didn't want to put it on my desk because I wanted to have more room. So I'm like, okay, yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to use USB for now, but maybe one day I'll buy some sort of, what you guys have, the interface to actually connect XLR microphone to a laptop. I would love to get what you guys have, the
Rodecaster.
The Rodecaster.
Yeah, I mean we can talk about that, but before we move on from microphones, for the Wi-Fi guys out there, it's very similar to antennas, right? You got your omnidirectional microphones that can pick up all the sound. You've got microphones that are like patch antennas that are more directional and can only pick up the audio if you're sitting like right in front of it. And then the receive sensitivity of the microphones is also something to consider. You can't, for some of these microphones, you can't be sitting about 5 feet away from the microphone. It just won't pick up the audio. And when it comes to picking the microphone, your environment also greatly will affect which microphone you get, because you could be in an environment like me where I actually record in my garage. If no one notices, I just sit in the corner of my garage. This is the only corner that's furnished, and the audio in the audio acoustics in this garage sucks, right? You got a lot of reverb, but this is why I have this specific microphone and all the controls I have here to try to reduce all the extra noise that you could potentially hear, especially cars that drive by my garage all the time.
Yeah, well, I have to say I was loving the behind the scenes picture we got of your the rest of your garage.
Yeah, yesterday I was showing them how I couldn't even get to this area because all our bikes are just blocking the the area, and they're still there. I had to go around them, and like I didn't want to put them away because I know my son's gonna go, hey, I want to ride bikes today, and I'm like, all right, let me take it all out.
That's actually what I was saying when I was muted earlier. So I was like, what? I'm not getting any reactions. What's going on?
And then I know
I wanted to see behind the scenes.
There was a question by Chris Reed about actually no, who was the one that said that question? Anyways, we can keep going. I do know the last question asked is by Alan. It's like, what audio equalizer settings do you apply to your mics? For example, Matt uses the masculine bass plus. He sounds more manly. I think you have a fan there, Matt. Or is that an insult to the rest of us?
It works both ways with me and Alan. I'm his biggest fan too.
So I use the settings that are on the Rodecaster. Mine's more of like, I just use the buttons, right? And I've tried adjusting very fine-tuned controls, and I don't like doing that. Only because I tend to change my environment often. So I don't want to keep changing settings. And once it works, I just stick to it.
Same. Because like on the Rodecaster, you have different versions of firmware. You can use like an easy mode. So that's what we have on our mixers interfaces with ROL. It can be like an easy lazy mode where you just have few knobs that you can turn pretty much like on or off, or you can get into expert mode where you can adjust more stuff which you normally could do in a studio equipment. It's just like a new firmware. It's been out for the last like week or two.
Yeah.
So we have like a compressor, de-esser, ducking, high pass filter, noise gate, oral exciter, big bottom, and we can turn it all off with just one click of a button if you want all the processing.
Right.
So
if I were to turn the processing off, you would hear all the sounds in my garage. You would probably hear the fan that I have going off to the left of me here.
That's what I just wanted to offer. So look, this is like how it sounds with all the processing turned on, and now I will turn it off. And now all the processing is turned off. So this is like how the microphone sounds without anything. Does it make any difference?
You seem quieter to me.
Okay, and now the processing is back on. So all the compression and
the compressor kicked in.
Yeah, and the noise gate as well is like you can hear it. It's like less clicky when I say even like plural words. It's not as damaging to your ears because it's compressed nicely on the mixer interface level.
Yeah, and you got to be careful with playing with those settings because like noise gate, for example, could start cutting off your words. And I have other equipment where you can control that pretty easily with physical knobs. And I would sit there for a long time just trying to nail down the audio. And I got tired of playing with it, and I really debated on getting this Rodecaster Pro. But I'm glad I made that decision because now I don't play with the knobs. The only knobs I play with are volume control, just to make sure that the volume is good. And so that way it's just easy to do, right? We just log in and record versus having to deal with the audio.
Yes, but it's not cheap, is it?
No.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
How much is it in States or in Canada?
I think it's 700 something, right?
Yeah,
and
so
the thing is, it's not really
not
really that necessary, I think, for both of you to have it. So, like for instance, Mac has it his end, so he can do all the recording. But is there really a need for me to have it on my end? I don't think so, because he can do all the local recording. So it's probably the same for you guys.
Yeah, and that depends a little bit because, like as you mentioned, you had the pod mic before, which is an amazing microphone, but it's a very gain-hungry microphone. So most of the standard available cheaper interfaces, they were not powerful enough for the pod mic, right? But it works perfectly on a Rodecaster. So pod mic and Rodecaster, they are good friends. But pod mic with even a small interface from Rode, same manufacturer as a mic, it was a Rode One something, 100
Yeah.
worth of interface. It didn't work. It was not loud enough. Not Audio Technica. It was M Audio. It was also not powerful enough for the pod mic.
Yeah, you have to consider how much you have to, how much gain from the mixer you have to have in order to, or the audio interface in order to boost that audio from the microphone.
Especially for dynamic microphones, they require way more gain than condenser microphones. Just to give you an example, I had to use like level 40 out of 100. It might seem like not a lot, but it's actually a lot. So I could hear the noise from the components from the mixer, even though the components, they're very high quality. Now I'm on the condenser mic with phantom power, 12 volts, and I'm on power level 18%, which is not too much, and I can't hear any voice, any noise from any components. I was recording locally and testing it properly, and really it makes a difference. So especially again for dynamic microphones, it makes a massive difference to have a very high quality interface that comes with it.
Yeah, and for USB microphone, what you could do instead is you could use a piece of software to kind of do the same thing. So on my end, I use something called Audio Hijack. It's an application that allows me to record my voice on my computer locally, and also I can adjust a lot of things on there. So it's kind of like a mixer, but a digital version of a mixer. And it's been working quite well for me. I can also record from applications. So right now, if we're on a Skype call, I can actually record the Skype call on one track, and I can record my voice on another track. So when you go and produce the audio for the episodes, you can actually have more control on the different tracks, and you can adjust the levels properly, so everything matches.
How about what do you guys do to reduce like ambient noise and echo, that sort of thing? I mean, you guys are, I know Mac and Matt, you guys are both in an actual room, so I would imagine it's easier to control that type of like ambient noise or echo. There's probably no echo in your room, right?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly what I do. Nothing at all.
Lucky.
Yeah, I do nothing. I'm probably the most laziest, not laziest, but I just have to try and keep it as simple as possible with my setup. I don't have the patience for.
Yeah.
I tried testing out with the Rodecaster and the Rode mic and the mixers and stuff, but I got like 2 or 3 in, and I was just fed up and sent it back. That's why when we come onto the camera and stuff, and we start talking about that, that's why I decided to go with the one that I've got with now.
How about you, Mac?
Well, Mac is dying to say something. Go on. Come on.
Well, I just bought some panels to improve the acoustics. I've seen like 1 or 2 panels in your office, in your garage, Roel, as well. So similar.
I just have one.
Things.
I've tried experimenting with that in the garage, because the audio, the reverb in here is bad, so I had to dampen the audio somehow. I've even used garage blankets around me, or moving blankets around me, to try to reduce the audio bouncing off the walls, and I just couldn't do that. And because I wanted to use a different microphone that I didn't have to put up to my face, and so this is just what I settle with now. And every time I record down here, you're not gonna see me without this microphone.
Yeah, because like it doesn't matter too much about the echo and reverb from your environment. It sounds fantastic as it is, right?
Yeah, it's I've been able to control it through the equipment, but I would highly recommend people to get those audio panels. You can get them on Amazon for cheap, but I mean, cheap panels, they don't
look good.
Yeah, they're not that good, but audio panels, those audio panels can cost a lot of money though, the really good ones.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I paid. They had like 2,000 reviews, almost 5 out of 5, and £30 for like 8 panels or something. It's not too bad, I guess.
I don't do anything in my office as well. I know I have echo, but I don't care.
It doesn't
too much
sound too
about
bad,
it.
yeah. And it all comes down to like, making sure your environment is good. You got to test out your audio. You do test recordings and you listen to it and then adjust. I always tell people to try to adjust what you can do in your environment first before getting equipment to try to fix that, because the equipment can cost more than, say, putting up some pictures on the walls, which could reduce your voice bouncing off those walls. You need something to absorb the sound so it just doesn't bounce right back to the microphone.
And also, most people, they won't hear it anyway. Like, while driving a car or something, listening to the podcast, it won't matter too much.
Yeah, it doesn't matter too much as long as it's not, I guess, disrupting the person who's listening. I know now that you guys have better setups and better headphones, I'm sure you judge the quality of other people's podcasts, and then I have to, I'll listen to it and I go, oh, I can hear that background sound. But I got to remember, it doesn't matter. I can still hear what the person is saying. The content still comes clearly. It's not distracting. So it's one of those things where you do your best, but you don't have to overly do it. You don't have to have the quality of some of those top podcasters out there who make millions of dollars off of their podcast. That's just unachievable. They also have money to do the recordings in their own studios. They have people to help them, all sorts of things.
Shall I show you what I was using when we very first started?
Go on, man.
Okay, one sec.
I can't even remember what I was using the very first time around. Oh.
This is a Sennheiser headset. You've just you put over your head with a little mic wired in. Yeah. This is what I use for probably, I don't know, 20, 30 podcasts. No, the 20-something podcasts, I'd say.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound too bad, to be honest. Well, if you are not eating up your Yeti, I have a feeling the Sennheiser is not much worse.
Yeah, and if people are thinking about starting a podcast and, you haven't got all of these thousands of pounds spare to get set up with all of this equipment, you can make other stuff, cheaper stuff work, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why I say start with a good, clean environment. That USB headset will work just fine. And I know people record from their phones wherever they are, and that works fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like those headsets with the microphones because it's a very directional microphone. So it's not going to pick up any ambient noise. And sometimes I have people, on a conference call with those microphones, and they forget that, the microphone is up, and then they start talking, and you cannot
just
hear
call
anything.
him out. It's Peter McKenzie does it all the time. How many times we'll just see him talking away, and you can just tell his mic's up, or he might not even have the video on, and we're like, Peter, pull your mic down.
Yeah, and then you put it down, then you can hear the person properly. So it's those gaming headsets are really good if you have this to just start recording. And when you're on podcast, no one cares about what you look like because they don't see you, right? So it doesn't matter if you look like a gamer and have all your gear on your head, right? It doesn't really matter.
No. Yeah.
Very true. Okay, do we have any more questions about the audio equipment?
No, not so
Nigel
far.
asked, have we answered Nigel's question that he sent earlier? I put it in our little chat. So he said about it doesn't matter if you're eating them for podcasts. It doesn't matter if you're almost eating the mic. So a dynamic mic is fine. Yeah. But if streaming or YouTubing and want the mic out of shot, dynamic mics may not do so well. If you use a condenser mic as an alternative, they pick up a lot of background, which is bad if you're creating content at home. It would be interested to hear how people have cracked that issue.
I think it still comes down to the environment always, record in a place where you're not going to pick up that sound, cover it up. I mean, I've seen people do, when I did a lot of research, I've seen people do crazy things to get good quality audio. I've seen people put themselves in a studio where it's just a wall of the audio panels and they literally sit there and the microphone is just in their face, and that's all you see in the video. But the audio is crisp. It's great. But if you want to show a great background like what we've got in our environment, then you have to maybe step up on the equipment, the type of microphone. Occasionally you'll hear a car, but you've done enough to get great audio.
Absolutely.
I think you could still use a dynamic mic even if you're doing live streaming or videos like this, you don't have to put it right in front of you. You can put it away a little bit, and it's still gonna sound better than if you had like an Omni mic that picks up everything, especially if you're typing on your keyboard and stuff like this. If you're just talking, what I use for videos is the Lav Mic, right? And I try to put it as close as my mouth as possible. And I guess that's when you can talk about audio production as well. When you produce the audio, you can have some control over that as well, and maybe you can reduce the noise. I know I use Audition from Adobe, and they have some options where you can actually reduce the noise, and so your voice stands out a little bit better. So obviously that's not possible when you do live streaming, but if you record a video for YouTube or something like that, you could adjust the audio afterwards before you upload
Amazing
the video.
with Audition, isn't it? Right? You can do it in two ways. It's just like auto noise reduction, which tends to work quite nice. Or you can take a profile of a noise, like if you have a fan that that doesn't change its sound throughout the podcast, you can just grab the profile of it and reduce only sound of that from your recording. It's amazing. I haven't yet discovered how you do it in Logic because I just started using Logic, but Audition is amazing.
Yeah, and for those starting out, you don't have to use Audition or Logic right off the bat. When I first started, I was using GarageBand and Audacity for the longest time, and those two are free. So I would start there. It's plenty enough, especially if it's just you doing the podcast. It's plenty enough to just do basic editing to get a little bit better audio quality, but you don't have to go overboard and do a lot of editing to publish a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And just go on.
I was going to say, to answer Nigel's question as well, what you could do if you do live streaming, maybe you can get one of those shotgun microphone that you
I have one of those.
On top of your camera, and that shoots directly to your face. Yeah, something like this. So, and I think they have a directional pattern to them as well. So you could use those mics as well if you're doing live streaming.
How do you find the quality of the shotgun mic, Roel? Is it as good?
The one I have is not that good. I've tried. That's the one I wanted to use, and that's what I've tried to clean up the audio. Try to condition the audio here in this garage, but the garage is just a horrible environment. But if you've got if you're in your room, it's perfect, because if it's close, if you just put it right above the camera, like right here, just out of view, and it's directional, it'll just pick up the audio from your voice. And you don't have to deal with the microphone in front or a lavalier on you. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, and also in terms of the directionality of the mics, there are quite a lot of questions on the internet about how you position your mic. Do you position it in front of you, just as I'm doing it now? Do you position it as Roel, slightly diagonal, 45 degrees or something? And the answer is, if you want to have the best proximity effect and stuff, this is the way to do it. If you want, however, to have a stress-free environment where you don't care about, exhaling to the mic and stuff, then Roel's setup is probably better. Yeah. So for us, the directional mic is pointing to the corner of your mouth. It's good. So you don't have to point at the microphone. Microphone has to point at you.
Yeah, if you're not doing video, it doesn't matter, right? No one's gonna see how you're positioning the microphone. So position it in a way that gets you the best audio. But just remember, if you're going to record a long episode, like what Max said, you got to move around a bit and not be so stationary in this little position the whole time.
Yeah, and test.
Test it all the time.
Testing.
So we pretty much spent a lot of time on microphones. Why don't we move into video?
Okay. Well, let's start with.
Do you want me to go first? Because mine's super simple.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm just using the Logitech Brio, which is a webcam that just plugs directly into my laptop, and it doesn't require any fancy lenses or cam links or anything. You can just plug it in and it starts working. You've got some control over some of the settings of the camera and the camera settings, but I just like the simplicity of it, to be honest.
I'm showing your setup right now on the live stream, Matt.
Okay, yeah. So if you're seeing my desk, then I've got the other thing I've got is the two key light airs. So that I find that really helps with how you appear on the webcam. Because before, if I was just having my overhead spotlights, the quality was not even half as good as what it is now, I would say, probably. So I think lighting is massively important. I've probably got a bit too much light coming from behind me to my right from the window, and it doesn't help that I've got mirrored wardrobes behind me, so you can see in the reflection the lights and I will scan on behind me. But I wasn't when we moved in 3 years ago, I wasn't thinking ahead that I would be doing podcast videos and all this kind of stuff to organize my spare bedroom around that.
So what's your long-term plan? Are you going to be recording from a toilet where you don't have the mirror behind you?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. I'm still undecided on how. What I'm.
I don't think the
do.
mirror is a big deal. Yeah,
Nah.
I don't think.
You were using the Apple webcam built into your laptop when you just the MacBook Pro, and it was absolutely bad. Then you bought the key lights from Elgato, and even your MacBook Pro camera, it looked quite nice, to be honest. So the light, it's changed quite a lot.
Yeah, I think lighting is important to look good on video. Where you could have the best camera, but if you don't have good lighting, you just don't look good on the camera. So all you've done is spent a lot on an HD camera without looking good. So
yeah, or if you have ugly face, it doesn't matter what lights you have.
And the Elgato key lights are amazing. I mean, you have so much flexibility with using those lights.
Yes. So Roel, what are you using? Let's switch to you.
Yeah. So I'm using my Sony camera, and so unlike you guys have photos directly looking at your monitor. If I did that kind of shot, you would just see my garage. So I have a Sony DSLR, which I use for photography, but since shelter in place, I'm not going out taking photos. So now I just use it for video. And so the light that I do have, because I do a lot of photography, I have a photography light that's just always on. So that's how I get kind of the soft light just directly on me versus lighting up everything else in my room. I do have a key light, which I do occasionally turn on just to provide light to the rest of the space. And then for ambient light, I use Philips hues in the back. So you can see like shades of blue and red. I just control that on my phone just to add some sort of depth to my environment. So if I were to control it, I could turn off everything just with my phone, and then you'll see like the lights turn off eventually. But I use the light. I have a really good lens on my camera just because I do photography. I didn't buy this setup just to do video. I ended up using this setup because it does video. It has video capabilities. I ended up getting what's that little thing, Francois? That
Camlink.
Camlink, yeah, the Camlink. But it adds its own sets of challenges, right? One, it puts a lot of processing power on your computer. I now have this delay with my microphone and the video, so I have to sync that audio delay up. But I spent a lot of time on the gear because I've always spent time on gear with like photography and video in the past. So I just migrated that setup to doing in-home videos.
Well, just a quick one about that. Are you doing something to sync up your video and audio between your gear?
Yeah, so I use a piece of software called Ecamm Live, which has the capability of syncing, trying to fix that audio delay. And other pieces of software have a similar setting. Like if you use OBS Studio, which is free, which you could also use for streaming, there is a setting in there to try to fix that audio delay. You just got to figure out what that delay would be. And I think it's different for like whatever camera and microphone you're using. But yeah, Ecamm Live makes it easy. It's just like a slider, and I just adjust it when I do a test recording. For my light, I'm using like a softbox studio. So if I show the photo, it's up on the top left of my photo. and it's just a big soft box that I typically use for photography, like photographing my kids and my family here at home. And then I just brought it downstairs and use it for here. My wife uses it as well because she takes photos of food, and so a lot of times we use that light for those photos. So it's a multi-purpose light, using it for everything. I have a key light here. My wife took my other key light since she wants more lighting upstairs. And Alan asks is anyone here using the Elgato HD60, the HDMI capture card, connected to their DSLR? How are you finding it?
I'm not using it. He knows about it.
So when I purchased my camera, I wanted to also purchase the Elgato 4K Cam Link, but at that time, you couldn't really find it anywhere available online because of the shelter in place. I guess everyone wanted to purchase it. So I had one on Amazon, but the delays were crazy. So I purchased another one, which is not the HD60 one, but it's another full HD card that I use. I think it's called MyPin, and it works okay. It's the quality of the image is not as good as what you would get directly from the camera, but it's better than my MacBook camera, my MacBook webcam. So It works okay. And then you don't see it on the picture here, but I actually put it under the desk, and I have HDMI cables that go from the camera to that box, and then you have a USB cable that comes from that box going into my laptop, and you can get the feed from the camera.
HDMI interfaces, they will not be able to provide as good quality as if the camera would have provided on its own without anything in between the camera and the computer.
Because we're using cameras that are meant to do photography, so it's they're not meant to use those setups that we're currently doing, right? And the one thing I would also mention that I've told Mac and I've told Francois is, like, if you're using your DSLR camera and you're using your battery, you'll find that the battery dies pretty quickly, right? And so they have these dummy batteries, which is just you put a battery in there, but it's like an AC adapter, and it just plugs into your outlet. So that way your camera just stays continually on, and you don't have to worry about your battery dying and having to switch it out mid-recording for whatever reason.
That's very important. Thank you very much for that tip, man. It's like it saved my day.
Yeah, I remember you're like, the battery sucks on this thing. It's dying. And I'm like, oh, get the dummy battery.
But the battery was discharging much quicker than it was recharging. So even if the camera was plugged in, 1080p was draining the battery quicker. If I was streaming on 4K, the camera would be dead within minutes. Okay.
Wow.
That's not what the DSLRs are. That's what they are for. If you are recording 4K, you just shoot a scene, you record for 5 seconds, for 10 seconds, for 1 minute, then you turn it off, you move, you start recording again. But if you do continuous 4K streaming, it's not only a drain on your battery, but also on your CPU, which becomes hot very quickly. So that's a good segue to the camera that I had. I had like a Fuji X-T30, which is a very good camera. But after 4 minutes of streaming 4K, it was shutting down because of the heat issues. And the producer says that they don't expect you to record more than 10 minutes within an hour of holding the camera, like, having it with you. They don't want you to do it because of, very small body, very powerful CPU. So I switched to a different camera, a bigger camera that doesn't have overheating issues, but it still required a dummy battery.
Yeah. And if you want to buy a DSLR camera to use as a webcam, what I did is I went online and I did some research on YouTube, and I found that a lot of even YouTubers were using the one I purchased, which is not very expensive. I think I spent $500 on it, and it does 4K. It's a Panasonic Lumix G7, and I've been loving it. Like, I even do, that's what I've used for my YouTube videos as well, and the quality is really nice. If I record directly the camera and then I transfer that file to my laptop, it looks sharp, like 4K and all of that. So I've been loving it. It's been working fine for my webcam as well. And I don't know if you can see on the picture, but you see I have two lights. On the lights on the right, I actually have another mount, for the camera. So what I do is I always leave it there, and it gives me a second angle. So and that's actually what I use if I do if I teach online. I would put the camera as an angle, and then I have my laptop right underneath it. So, and then I keep my students on my laptop screen. So when I'm looking at the student, it looks like I'm looking at them, right? So that's kind of like what I do, and it gives me, two different angles. I can talk directly, and right now I have it on a tripod that I keep behind my desk to have the facing shot, and then I can transfer the camera over there if I want the angle shot, and it's been working pretty well for me. All I have to do is transfer the camera.
Okay, what lens do you use, Francois? Because it looks quite neat on both your screens.
Yeah.
You're very well, so you have a nice blurry background. So what's the focal length and how much was it?
So yeah, I'm not a nerd, video nerd, but what I did when I purchased the camera, I purchased another lens to get. And Roel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you have a lower aperture, it gives you the blurry effect.
Yeah.
So I purchased a lens with a lower aperture, and when I tried it on, when I received it, I noticed that the shot was like cropped like crazy. And I didn't know that my camera has like some sort of cropping.
It's APC sensor.
APC sensor, yeah, it's like a quarter crop or whatever. So when I put the lens on the camera, it looks like it was zoomed 4 times by default. So I couldn't really put it in front of me, like it wouldn't work out. So what I'm using instead is the lens that came in the box, and this camera comes with 2 lenses, which is pretty cool. And one of them has the minimum opening of 14 millimeters, I think, 14. So that would be the angle, I believe, and then the aperture is I don't know.
Yeah, probably like a 1.8 or 2.8 f-stop. So there's f-stops on lenses.
3.5.
Yeah, so there's a minimum f-stop if you want that blur. It's popular amongst photographers, and it's even how far you are from the camera and how far the background is from you. It can, because it focuses on you, it blurs out the background, right? So it's a photography thing. And
so I put my phone and I focus. You can see I become.
You can see that focus.
Oh, you can do that. So you can make. Yeah. So if I.
Yeah, I can do that as well. I can zoom in. Yeah, so I usually leave it all the way out, and it's and that's all I do. And then I have the aperture set to the minimum, which is 25, and it's 3.5 opening. And I just ask Roel what to use.
Get it on mine as well. How's that?
See, I can do that digitally. I don't need to touch the camera. But I have more of a photographer setup. My lenses are, if you look at my lens, I can't even move this picture. I can't move it, sorry. The lens on the left is a Zeiss lens, and I typically use that for photography. So my lenses, you don't have to do this. I don't recommend doing this just to get started on video, but my lenses are over $1,000 US dollars. Because the lens to me is the more important piece in photography. That's what gives you like the really crisp quality, and that's how good the focusing will be. Because that's what I focus on with photography. But it works well for video. I mean, it's not really meant to be used for video, but that's just what I use because that's what I have. And you can tell, like, even between the qualities between us, like the quality is great. You wouldn't even know if we didn't tell you. You wouldn't know that we're using DSLRs with a specific lens. I guess the difference is you can see our quality versus Matt's, which is a webcam. So his is to me looks slightly sharp, but I mean it's still great. I can still see him clearly. It's not like he's completely pixelated or anything.
Yeah, but for your one lens, he can buy 3 Logitech Brios.
Yeah, exactly. But I can use it for both video and photography.
Yeah. But Francois, your deal is amazing. Like I think I've checked it like 2 or 3 days ago for someone. It was £549 for your camera, including the kit lens that you're using. It's an
And
amazing.
another thing I've seen a lot of people doing recently is using their iPhone cameras as webcams. I haven't personally done that, but I mean, the camera on the iPhone 11 Pro is pretty good, right? So if you have that, you could potentially use, I don't know if you can do that with ECam, plug your iPhone in and use the back of your phone as your video.
Yeah, you can definitely do that.
I think Eddie was doing it, right?
Yeah, Francois done that a couple of times on the live stream. And I think one of the problems I have with using the phone, like I don't know if you heard my phone just go off, is if you're using your phone's going to go off if somebody calls you or you have an alarm set up or something happens, like some sort of notification pops up.
Can you put it in there?
What I wanted to say is I think if you have a Canon DSLR cameras, now they have a way where you can actually directly connect it to your laptop without having to use those HDMI boxes, which is a huge selling point because you can just buy the camera.
Both Mac and Windows.
I'm not sure, but I've seen it somewhere on YouTube, and it's like a new piece of software you install on your laptop, and it detects automatically your DSLR as a webcam, just like the Brio.
That's kind of what so I heard that was coming, so that's kind of what I'm waiting for. I can't be bothered with like setting up the cam link and the delay and stuff. I don't have the patience for that, so I think when that Canon becomes available, I will probably look to go for that as an option. Then
most Canons, it's like a backwards compatible. I believe it will be just a piece of software running on a computer, and it's not only Canon. I believe, Francois, that even your Lumix, it has a piece of software that allows you to do the same, but only on Windows environment. Okay. They're working on a Mac, and my Fuji does the same, but works only on Windows. So that was like 2 days before I switched to MacBook Pro, where they announced that they're releasing the software that doesn't require cam link anymore.
That would
Mac,
be nice.
Your audio has been spotless the whole way through. No jittering, no sounding like a Dalek.
Yeah, but I have
good audio the whole time.
I have a feeling it's not the MacBook Pro, just I have a dedicated access point.
Come on, man. You had this happen to you every time on Windows. We've done a few of these now. It's not happened once.
But then how do those gamers deal with it? They use mainly Windows operating systems when they stream. I'm not sure how they handle that.
Yeah, they're just lucky. Every time.
Possibly. All right. What else can we talk about? Video equipment. Don't start with the most expensive. It's just more complicated. That's my advice. Start with something in your price range and then try it out because you may not want to do streaming. The thing that I like about video streaming is I actually don't edit anything. When you go live, like I try to just nail it the first time and then post it. So rarely do I even edit my own video. This live, for example, will not be edited. And there's a reason why I use Ecamm Live is because I can set up everyone in their own corners, right? You see all four of us. That's just a function of the application versus me having to ask each of you guys to record your own audio and then stitch it up together in some video editing software. And then I use different controls, like showing these pictures of our setups is really easy for me because it's just a button that I can press. And I also use, I didn't mention this, but I use an Elgato Stream Deck to help plan all that out. So ahead of time, I'll figure out, okay, what scenes do I want to put? Like which videos am I going to show? Which screenshots am I going to play? Which audio am I going to play? And it's just a button that I press. It makes it very easy for me to do that live versus having to do that in the end in post-production and spend time editing because I just don't have time to edit. I'd rather just nail it the first time and then that's it.
Makes sense. So you have Stream Deck, a physical one, and you're using Ecamm Pro. What subscription do you have? The standard or the Pro?
I just have Ecamm Live.
So is it the most expensive or is it like the middle one? Because you have 3 tiers now. It's free, like £12 a month.
I paid for the one that I have. I didn't even know they had Pro.
Okay.
I have Ecamm Live. If I go to the website, I must have. Yeah, I don't even know which one I'm using. I don't remember clicking on a standard or Pro.
I used to use Ecamm Live, but then this changed. Then they added the new Pro tiers, and then You couldn't use your virtual cam if you were not pro, and they changed a whole bunch of stuff. Like the iPad, the iPad. You know, if you want to use the iPad as a secondary camera, you need the pro version.
Oh,
so
okay. So I have the
it
pro
can-
version then, because I have the virtual cam, the webcam.
Yeah. So I stopped using it, but that's
But that's what I use to even record the videos. So even when I'm not doing live streams, I use Ecamm Live to just record the video to my computer. So what I do is I plan what I'm going to record. I just when I do it, I just hit the record button. I have all the buttons I want to press. So when I switch between my face and the screen, it's just a press of a button, and then I end the recording. And after that, I don't even edit anything in Adobe Premiere or any other video editing. I just upload it straight to YouTube.
Nice.
I just don't have time to edit. That's my thing is I'm busy enough that I don't want to be sitting at a computer editing for hours on end trying to get the perfect video.
And it's not only about the video, right? It's about the audio as well. That's why we both have Rodecaster Pros.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the audio is more, for us, audio is more important, right? We're a podcast, so, and for you guys as well, it's better to hear us than, I mean, most people are probably not even watching us. They're probably hearing our voices and just having the video off to the side. And so that audio is more important, because if you can't hear anything clearly, people are just going to tune out.
yeah. And I guess what's critical for video is lighting as well. If you don't have proper lighting, like, look, if I turn off my light, and right now it's a day, right? My office window is open. If I turn off my lights, this is what you see.
Yeah.
And
I'll do the same.
Same.
yeah, so lighting will be key, right? We're not gonna ask Roel to turn his light off.
I got to stand up and turn mine off.
We'll start to see ghosts and stuff.
You'll see the ghosts in my garage.
Yeah.
All right, so we did touch
But
upon
you
recording.
you control your lights via Wi-Fi, which, you know, this is we're wireless podcast.
Yeah, the Elgato lights definitely over wireless. My Philips Hue over wireless, but my softbox not wireless yet.
You can make it over wireless by connecting it to the smart plug.
Yeah, but it's got a physical button to turn it on. Like if I unplug it and plug it back in, I still got to press the button to turn on the light.
Oh no.
It's all right.
Okay.
We'll get there with the photography equipment, but those are first world problems.
But very important nevertheless.
It is. It is.
Everything
Since
has
we're a
to be
wireless podcast, right? We got to do everything wirelessly. Are you guys recording this over wireless? Are you guys doing your streams over wireless?
Of course.
Yeah, I'm wireless right now.
Don't lie.
I'm doing wireless 40 megahertz wide channels 2.4. That's what I do.
2.4. And it's working just fine. I don't know what everyone's big deal is.
Exactly.
2 megahertz by channels.
All right. So what are the other things you guys use? I guess we didn't really touch upon the editing software. I told you how much I don't like to edit. So I try to streamline things. We do use Adobe Audition to produce our podcasts, but we don't do much editing. So we're not cutting out the ums and the uhs. We're not speeding things up, but we do have a, what is it called, Francois? Like a preset that we've created that we apply to every single podcast episode we do. It just cleans up the audio just a little bit, adds a little bit of compression, and then we export it. So we no longer sit there and edit for more than 5 minutes, Francois?
Yeah.
We just export it, convert it to MP3. I think that's all we do.
Yeah. The problem is like when you have a long podcast and you have few pauses in there, like, you know, some, like, I don't know, you have a postman or something, and then you have to find it. I tend to listen back to every podcast before posting it, just in case. And I'm happy that I'm doing it. Otherwise, they couldn't be marked as clean, I don't think.
I was going to say the main reason you have to do it is because you swear so much during it normally, and then you have to go back and find it and cut it out.
You have to beep it. Beep.
You should just have a button for that. Create a delay, and then when you hear Mac, cuss, just press the button.
I'm not sure what you're referring to. It's like, have you ever heard me swearing in a podcast, guys?
I think you sweared like a couple of times on chat before we went live.
Imagine that, but like times 100 when we're just recording.
Yeah. So Roel, thank you very much that you are using Adobe Audition, and you just told me to buy a Logic.
The editing software doesn't matter as much. I only have Adobe Audition because I have the Adobe Suite, which has the Audition on it. And I was using, before that, Audacity, which I got used to using, and it was pretty easy for me to go through it. And early on, I was editing everything, right? I would cut out certain words. I would get rid of all the pauses. And now it's just, we just try to keep it as natural as possible. If there's a pause, there's a pause. And if you don't want to listen because of that pause, fine. I don't really care. But we just don't want to edit as much anymore because we're all busy. We just don't. We try to get it right in the recording, so that way there's less post production and editing. That way we can go back to what we need to do. Right? We have families, so you can go back to playing with your kids. Like I just heard my son wake up. I heard him step down up. I'm in the garage. The living room's upstairs. I can hear him walking around. So he's probably gonna kill my Wi-Fi by playing games, online games right now.
Sorry, what are you saying? Can't hear you.
There is a delay. Yeah, and that's a neat thing that you can do with Rodecaster for audio. So let's imagine that we have interview with me, Matt, and some guest over the phone. You can have every person on a different channel. So if I'm recording it locally to my Rodecaster, I will record it locally using my Rodecaster. Then I will have Matt over Skype or Slack or whatever. I will record him using a USB channel in the Rodecaster, and then the phone would be over Bluetooth or over the analog audio, and that's on a separate channel.
Yeah, so I love that part.
Yeah, same, man. Instead of going to post-production, we just make sure that
trying to tie all the audios together, right? You're like, okay, give me your recording, give me yours, and then we'll kind of patch it together. It's just you record it once on that Rodecaster, and that's it, right? All the audio's there and everything, even the music, right? We don't remember, Francois, when we would just manually add the music in the beginning. Now when we record, I just press the button, the music's there. We don't even do that.
And that's the music.
The cool thing with the Rodecaster, and I did this with UC and you, Francois. UC visited the Bay Area. We went to a meeting room and we were recording a podcast episode about something I forgot already. But he, at the last minute, he was like, "Hey, why don't we bring Jerry onto the recording as well?" So I had me and UC in the same room on our own mics. Francois coming over on Slack, which was connected to my computer. And then what's really cool with the Rodecaster is UC over Bluetooth connected to the Rodecaster, dialed Jerry through like some voice over IP application since he had to use Wi-Fi to make the call. So we cobbled that all together last minute using the Rodecaster, and the Rodecaster had all those inputs, the USB to the computer, the Bluetooth connectivity, all of that worked out pretty well. And the flexibility of the Rodecaster, I think, is great.
Doesn't sound like UC to be last minute at all. And I suppose that's one other thing that we haven't actually discussed is that when you record podcasts, what platform are you using to record your podcast? Usually, you mentioned Slack before. Is it Slack that you guys still use now?
Yeah, just we only use Slack between the two of us, since I think on the free version of Slack you can't have group chats or group calls. So usually with me and Francois, we call each other on Slack. We just use voice. We don't have video on, and then we record that way.
Okay, so a quick question about that, because what we have done previously, before the Rodecaster days, we were looking for applications that you can, use to record your audio. So let's say you can record the session with Skype, and then I can just put that into Audition or Logic or whatever and work on that audio file. We've tested Cisco WebEx. What else have we tested? Few different.
Zoom.
Yeah, we have tested Zoom as well, and we concluded that Skype gives us best audio quality out of all those tools. But we haven't checked the Slack. Is it better than Skype in compression manner? Does it sound nicer? Yeah,
I mean, the episodes that if you listen to our episodes, those are all done over Slack.
It was always impressive. And how do you do it? Like, do you record your own voice well on the roadcaster? So there's like a local quality of the recording, and you have Francois over Slack from the USB channel on the roadcaster.
Yeah. So we when we do record, we record ourselves. So I record my voice, Francois records his voice, and we kind of use that as a backup. So it depends on the call. So sometimes, like when we bring a third person on, we try to determine whose audio is the best. And so like if Francois's audio sounds better on the recording, he'll end up using his recording. A lot of times our connection's really good that it doesn't sound like Francois coming over the internet. And so to make things easier, I'll use the audio that just comes into the roadcaster. And so we just kind of make a call that way sometimes, depending on if Francois for some reason gets cut off or I get cut off, we'll just combine our audio together to make it sound like to get the best quality. Because sometimes, you know, the internet has issues. So sometimes there's large delays for whatever reason, and we have to work through that, or audio just gets cut off here and there, and we just work through that as well.
Okay.
It's just that's what creates a post-production edit. The time is when we have hiccups like that, we edit.
About the podcast guys, and I think they've nailed it. Like everyone is recording locally to their own machines, and they have a piece of software that stitches it together automatically for them. I think. Well, it must be as easy because Alan is doing it, so it probably cannot be too time consuming. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done it. So I think we'll be testing it shortly.
I wonder if he's still there in the chat and listening.
Yeah, I think he's still there.
The local recording is saved us a few times. So the backup recording. So especially when you interview with people and you don't want to interview them again, right? That saved us. I can't remember when exactly, but this year saved us. I think when we did the one with Chris from Broadcom. I think your SD card was full on the roadcaster.
I was chatting with. So there's one tip is to clear your SD card before if you're using the roadcaster or any other recorder. Make sure you have space. And I was
because those files get heavy really fast.
Yeah, the roadcaster because everything is on its own track, so it takes up much more space. And when you look at the file, it's huge. It's like. For we've gone an hour and 15 minutes now, that I would have maybe 2-3 gigabyte files already because of how long we're going and how much audio it's taken up. But yeah, it was like down to the wire. I had like 3 minutes left on my SD card before it stopped recording. I was like, Francois, you're recording, right? Because I'm about to lose it.
Yeah, and it's same thing if you're recording locally on your computer. You need to make sure that you have enough space to record.
On your hard
one
drive.
day I recorded a podcast with Cedric, my friend from France. We wanted to do one in French, and I didn't have enough space on my laptop, and the recording stopped, and we lost everything.
Oh, everything? Not just a portion of it? Just everything?
Because the application crashed. The recording application I was using crashed, and we lost everything. So, I mean, if you're recording on the SD card, make sure you have enough space. If you're recording locally to your, to your hard drive, make sure you have enough space as well.
Yeah, that's why I like recording with dedicated recorders and not with an application on your computer that you're using to do the interview or the podcast, because you just never know when an application fails for whatever reason or crash. The audio recorders, like the one that you showed, Francois, like the Zoom recorder, those things are rock solid. I mean, the only thing you got to worry about is having space on the SD card and battery. And if you just get an adapter, you don't even have to worry about battery at all. You just have to worry about the space. And so it's one less thing to worry about. I've never had my recorder crash on me ever. And I have a separate Tascam recorder similar to what Francois has. And we used to use that a lot before I got the Rodecaster. Now it's just like on the Rodecaster, and Francois's audio is more of like backup just in case I lose the guest audio. So we have a lot of backup recordings. I think that's the one tip that we have for podcasters is if you're going to record the audio, make sure somebody else is also recording it just in case you drop off for whatever reason. Like, what if Skype fails right now? And like, what if I just dropped off? Well, one, we'd lose the stream, but you can keep going and still record this session.
Yeah, I know the feeling, how it feels to drop off. So before I switched to MacBook Pro, I was like dropping off like 8 times a session, sometimes with a Skype,
man.
only on video. But it was a Skype bug, I believe, because I'm not alone out there. Done the research
Yeah.
on the web. It was funny. Okay, so I think that concludes the video part as well and the recording. So
Yeah,
now
I mean, we kind of talked about everything.
yeah, quite a lot. But there are some few things that we've spent hours researching while working on our beautiful setups. So what do you guys use for like an arm or a bracket for your cameras, for your lights, for your microphones? Do you have anything specific that is worth considering?
I use the Rode boom arm that attaches. I mean, I try to get everything Rode, same vendor. For the camera, I have like what's called I forgot what it's called. But I use like photography equipment. So I've got an arm where I can actually move the camera around. I just loosen it and I could put it to any position I want. And so I have it positioned where it's at my eye level. So I'm looking directly at you when I'm looking at the camera. It costs a little bit more, but it is pretty stable. I haven't moved it at all. I bumped it and it's never came loose. So it is pretty strong arm and it holds my camera and the lens, and it just attaches to the mount that I have for my monitor.
Nice.
Yeah, I use for the lights, I use the Elgato mount, which is really nice looking, sturdy, and all of that.
Have to
For
replace the original ones?
The one that came with the lights, yes. Yeah,
So
it's very
so
nice.
bigger lights. You don't have key light error. You have a key light, the big ones that they come
Yeah.
with these brackets.
Yeah, exactly. So when I purchased the key lights, they didn't have the light version yet. So I have the original key light, and it comes with a really nice tripod. I wish I could use the same one for my camera. I don't know if I can buy it, just the mount, but it's a very nice mount. You fix it to your desk, and it's nice. And then, like I mentioned, I have this little articulated mount for my camera that I attach on those key lights mounts and for my camera, and it works well. I can place the camera however I want. It's cheap. You can buy that on Amazon for like $20.
Can you guess what I'm using?
Your desk.
Your
Yep.
screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely nothing.
Matt's got like the simple setup, right? And so it shows you that you don't have to get all this equipment. Like, we got it because there's very specific scenarios and the reasons why we get it. My table moves, so during meetings I have with other people, I don't use this microphone, so I use the boom arm and just kind of swing it to the side. And then if I want to get up, I can do that. So it's just your preference. Like the bracket that I use for my camera, it's a Manfrotto. It's called a Magic Arm with a camera bracket. And you don't have to get that. I only got that because I needed to move the camera to a specific position. And because the camera with my lens is heavy, I need something that is capable of holding the weight without drooping over time. And so that's why I have that specific setup. And you'll figure out what works as you. Unfortunately, some of you will spend more money than you want to as you try to test out certain equipment, which I think Mac can attest to.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to share how much we spend. Answering your question, Francois, you can buy those arms from Elgato. They're called Elgato,
The Magic Arm.
Something like that, like a mount something. And then to make it even more agile, you can buy Elgato flexible set kit. I think that's
Flex Arm.
called. Yeah, Flex Arm. So that's what I'm using with my massive and heavy camera with big lens as well, and it's rock solid, super sturdy.
Yeah, Elgato stuff is rock solid because they cater to streamers, and streamers have very similar setups to ours, right? And so those streamers are usually like gaming streamers. So they're very similar setups. Rode is really good because they're focused on just really great audio, right? So that's the reason why we pick their equipment.
That's nice. Yeah, I see the Flex mic. It's not or the Flex mount. It's like 60 Canadian dollars, so it's not too expensive.
It's just very popular right now.
Yeah. Well,
It is.
anyway, And you can also, I guess, do over-the-top shots if you shooting something and you want to showcase a product. Or
Yeah, I'll have a shot on top of my screen. Whenever Matt comes in, I will shoot him. Okay, shall we spend here like 30 more minutes? Because I know that Matt is bursting for a wee. And
I actually have to drop. I actually have to go. But if you guys want to continue, you can.
I don't know. We've beat up the topic. I think at this point, if anyone has specific questions, we can do something very specific. But we've touched upon so many different things. So to recap, for anyone that's still here, we talked about microphones, what microphones we're using, why you pick a specific microphone. We talked about video equipment, what kind of camera you could use. We use DSLRs and also webcams. We both have like both types of cameras. Lighting is important, so we all have our own lights, as you can tell, to just kind of put the focus on you and not make it look so dark. And some of us showed examples of what it looks like when the lights are off. We talked about how to edit. I don't like to edit. Nobody likes to edit, so we try to. I say try to get it right in the recording as much as you can to minimize the amount of editing. But there's free applications and paid applications. I would start with the free ones to start before going into a paid version. Then we talked about recording and the issues we have recording and how to make sure you have a reliable recording of your podcast or stream. That's pretty much it. And with Ecamm Live, I'm actually streaming and recording the video to disk. I have a NAS, I have a Synology, which it just streams that video to the Synology. And when I end this stream, I'll have a video file, which I will also give you, Wi-Fi Ninjas, a copy of that.
Very kind of you. Thank you very much, Roel.
All right, guys, that is a long stream. That's about what? How long did we go? Almost an hour and a half. So yes. It's a good topic. It's an interesting topic to talk about because we are guys who like gear, the equipment that we use, and we like to test and talk about what works, what doesn't. But really appreciate all of you guys coming together to talk about and sharing what it takes to get to where you are now and what you're happy with. And it kind of shows people that they could do it as well. We've already gone through the hurdles of trying to go through this equipment, figuring out what works. And now you know how our environments are. So maybe you could use this as an example to set up your own environment, do your own podcast or streaming, whatever it is.
Yeah, and thank you guys for having us on your channel and also for your continuous support behind the scenes. Because if it wasn't for you, because you were our inspiration to start our journey with the best audio video equipment, it would have not been as easy and smooth. So thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Yeah, thank you for everyone in the chat. Thank you for joining us. I'll update the description so we can, there's timestamps for what topic we were discussing. But if you guys want to follow the Wi-Fi Ninjas, head over to their podcast. How can they find you guys?
On the wifininjas.net or on every major platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, everywhere else.
Awesome. And then you can find us on clearsend.net. So follow both of our podcasts if you haven't already. Talk about Wi-Fi, and hopefully we'll do more live streams like this and continue doing video. Thank you, guys.
That would be really awesome.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
guys. Thanks for having us. Love you. Bye.